Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
So after setting up the master and understanding the master, worker, workstations, everything, all this stuff, now you have and we have only one work, no other work, only one work. And that is, what is your desire? What your desire? What do you want? Kubernetes will act like a genie, will give you everything, whatever you want. But what is your desire? What you want? So guys, right now, I don't know what is my desire. If I don't know my desire, I will always ask server, what you can give me, tell me what you can give me. So you give me the list of it. I will find, I will see that what I want and what I don't want. Give me the complete list. Very simple. So here, if I run kubectl and I will ask to know, I will ask what are the features you have it. So that we call it API resources. Remember API server, if you remember the discussion, API server has a multiple APIs, not one API, hundreds of it. And all this API, all these features which you can see through this command. Look at it, this command. Now this is little bit big, so I'll make this 14 so you can see on the screen well. Okay, look at this. Which are the resources you have? Look at this. These are the resources. So if Kubernetes is asking me, what do you want? Then I will ask what you have. And I get to know I have these many resources. If I count it, total 56 resources we have. I remember last month we had a 54 or 55, I guess. So maybe one got added, two got added or something, right? So this is what we have. So now your job is to learn all these stuff. Look at this, all this stuff. Your job is to, learn all this stuff. What is binding now? What is event? What is a pod? I think you know that pod, right? What is a secret? What is a daemon set? What is a deployment? What is a cron job? What is all other stuff we have here? So we need to know all this stuff. What do you want? I want some of these stuff. So some of the stuff, like a pod, we discuss a lot on this. Nodes, that, right? Nodes, that. But remaining things we have to learn. So now if I want to learn, if I see this table, guys, this table, here you have a name of the resources, which a name of feature, name of APIs, and there's a short name also. And there is a API version, which is called V1. So if I see that these all are V1, but if I go down, this is with, see here, some name and then version V1. This is some name and this is the version V1. So what is this API version? And if I go further, a little bit further, here I see namespaced. The question is, what is a namespace? So guys, don't confuse with the namespace at the kernel level which you discuss. Here namespace is different, I'll discuss with you. And here your true, false, true, false, true, false. So some of them are true, some of them are false. We should understand that. And here kind, this is something which we need to write in YAML. This is a case sensitive, so I'll show you this one also. So I don't know what is a version, so let me explain you first what is a version. So what has happened, this is a API server. Okay, this is the API server. Now, so API server has a multiple API, API 1, API 2, it can be pod, it can be node, API 3, API 4, API 5, API 6, API 10, API 20, API 30, API 40. So, initially, right now we have a 59 or 57, whatever it is. So now initially what has happened? Initially only few APIs got developed. So what they did, they labeled it as a V1. Then later on, so many API got started popping up by the community, so many. Now see every month 1 or 2 getting added. So because of the growth is so high of the features in Kubernetes, community is writing lots of resources. So what they did, later on, after releasing the version 1, which you can see in this sheet, these all is the initial features. So after this, whatever they release, what they did, they grouped together. This is a group. Okay, so what they did, this is a microservices scenarios. So they grouped this one into, let's say this is belong to security, this is belong to the storage, this is belong to this is belong to that. So they grouped together and they started versioning the group one, not the individual one. So here if you see that, that's the reason here you see till here, this is the initial resources which got released in for the Kubernetes. So they named it the V1, still the V2 has not come. But after that, whatever the resources they released, whatever the features they released, they grouped it together. So see here, these are the related to admission. This is related to app. This is related to authentication. And this is related to networking. This is related to RBAC security. This is related to storage. So all this thing, and then they group the version, the group one. Okay. So now you see here, most of these are V1, version 1, but some of these you will see the V2 also. You'll have to check that. Not here. So I'll check the version. I'll show you that which are the V2. Okay, still the V1, here V1. So guys, did you understand this concept? What is the API version? All of you?
So Rajesh, one question here. So it's always like V1, like there'll be like more add-ons coming, right? So why it will not go to V2, V3, something? But it's always V1 every time.
So for time being, this, let's say this is the one of the resources. This is a pod. So first it released the V1. Now when they release the V2, they will make it V2 also. They'll have a V2 also. As of now, V2 is not released. Okay. It's like Windows 2009, 2010, like that. So the pod resources still is released V1. V2 has not come so far. So now you want to know which are the V2 has come. So let's see the version table. So here, if I see the API version, this will tell you which particular version is supported by this Kubernetes installation. So see here, this is the V1 version, and remainings are group name. Here remainings are group name, and see here remaining group. Now you see here, this is the V2 has come. You see here. So auto selling group V1 also has come, and V2 has come, but it's still in beta version, not in a production. See here. So probably after a few months, it will go to the V2. So now this cluster will support V1 also, V2 beta 1 also, V2 beta 2 also. Now let's check it out some more if you have V2 release version 2. Okay. So now because of the Kubernetes is a new product, stable product, right? Not too many releases is happening. Make sense? So every new features, whatever you add, it's coming with the first beta and alpha beta and then V1, something like that. Understood that now?
Yes, thanks.
So guys, now I could understand, okay, these are the resources, these are the features we have in Kubernetes API server. Short name is there, API version also I understand. But the question is, what is a namespace? So that is the next questions which we have to understand. What is a namespace and why it is true, why it is false, why some resources are namespace true and why some resources namespace false. So now for that, we need to understand what is namespace. Okay. So guys, let me tell you here, by the way, namespace is one of the resources we have here. It's a core resources as part of the V1. Look at this. Namespace itself is one of the resources, which is a V1 NS, and the namespace is here false. So we need to understand what is namespace. So if you are clear so far, can I explain you what is a namespace? Anyone? Everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Raj.
Okay. So guys, what is happening? Let me show you here. What is a namespace? You have to imagine, you have to visualize actually. Instead of, only hearing me out, think about the problems. So here, this is a cluster. Okay. Remember I made one statement, I think yesterday, I guess. Yeah, yesterday. The Kubernetes view entire data center as one compute unit. So this is the Kubernetes cluster, but you know what? This is powered by not one worker, but multiple worker. One worker is here, two worker, three worker, four worker, five worker. But still the Kubernetes will behave as if it's a one computer. Why? I have explained you yesterday in detail. So now this cluster is powered by 5 nodes, 5 worker. Now what will happen is I want to create a pod. Now pod I am using because you know pod very well. So here, let's say there's a project A and there is a project B. Okay, just only two projects is there. Now A project A team, B project B team, governed by two different teams. So now what has happened? Project A had deployed the pod. So he has deployed the one pod. Let's say he wanted to have a 5 pod. So you know that if you have an anti-affinity, then the pod will be allocated, placed randomly to the each nodes, right? You know that. So now here each node, this pod you have in 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 this, right? Like that. Just some dummy scenarios. Now what is happening here? B team also wants to have a pod. So he wants to deploy the pod. He deploy the pod, one pod, two pod, three pod, four pod, five pod. Now what has happened? One day, team B, what they did, they deploy the new image actually, image versioning. You remember we were creating a V1 latest, this, that, and all. So they deploy the new version of image. But you know what was the problem? In the new version of image, the there is a bug, and the bug will consume lots of CPU. Because of the results of that bug, the consumptions of RAM and CPU will become a too much for that particular product. So tell me one thing, because of that bug, only one machine will be impacted or every machines will be impacted in the cluster? Tell me. Tell me. One machine will be impacted or every machines will be impacted? Are you there?
Everyone, could you repeat the question here? Sorry.
I said project A is running the pod in the cluster, same cluster. Project B is also running the pod in the same cluster. How this deployment happens, we have discussed so many times. I'm asking, B product has some bugs, pod has some bugs that is consuming more CPU or more RAM, some memory leaks or something. So you tell me, only one machine will be impacted because of this bug or entire cluster will be impacted?
Whole cluster will get impacted. Entire cluster will get impacted because it's at the pod network level also connected.
So entire cluster will get impacted because this pod is impacting this machine, this pod is impacting this machine, this pod is impacting this machine, and like that. Now because of that, what has happened, you know, this bug is consuming most of CPU and RAM. So now these guys are very angry. This guy is very angry, saying that team A, see, we were sharing the cluster. Think about it, problem. We were sharing the cluster. You do not test well. You deploy the wrong image to the pod, and now because of that you have a downtime, but we too have a downtime because of that. So project A is very frustrated because of this. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, you have a one cluster, but you have to work with a multiple team, multiple project, multiple product. This kind of things will happen. One more scenarios which I would like to add here is, now let's say team A is having one admin, and by mistake what he did, by mistake he deleted all this pod. Now because of this mistake, now team B is suffering because both the teams were working in the same cluster, right? So now team B is suffering because of that and saying that how dare you touch my pod. So this kind of firefighting will keep on happening between the project, between the services also, service also, okay, between the microservices also, between the project, between the team, between the department and all. So there should be some way to divide the cluster and control the cluster by the sub team. So then what Kubernetes said, no problem, don't fight like this, don't fight like this. This whole cluster, whatever you have, you can divide into sub cluster. Again, please mind it, I am drawing a line which is a horizontal, not vertical. But I'm not saying, listen me very carefully. Many people think and in a wrong way. I am not saying these these three node will be belong to A and these two node belong to the B. I'm not saying that. I am saying is horizontal separation. That means you have an entire compute unit one, and that is divided into two part. One for the project one for the project B. Now what we can do, this subcluster 1 and this subcluster 2, we can set the limit. Let's say you have total capacity of 30 GB RAM. So here you can set this project, whatever this subcluster, whatever the pod you are running, consolidated pod all together, consolidated, you cannot use more than 15 GB, and here you cannot use more than 10 GB. 5 GB maybe for the maintenance work. So now here what is happening? Think about it. If there is a bug in this software, so maximum you can use 15 GB. Sorry, 10 GB. 15 GB is still there and other software is running. Now let's say if And one more thing you can do here, you can create a user account and only give the access to this subcluster. So he will have a no access to here. So that kind of distribution of the resources in the cluster for the multiple teams, you can do that. So now you must be wondering, okay, I was talking about namespace. Where is this subclustering concept? So basically guys, in the Kubernetes, we do not have any keyword as such subcluster. This is a one cluster, and if you divide, mind it here what I'm saying, if you divide the cluster into the multiple zone, and it's a horizontal division, not a vertical, multiple zone, and strict some of these access to those area, and assign the limitation like you can only use this much of RAM, this much of CPU, this much of network and all, storage and all, that division itself is called a namespace. So that means this is a one namespace, this is a two namespace. Okay, did you understand that? Why namespace? Namespace is a way to divide the resources and keep a same cluster. It can be used for multiple product, multiple team, multiple department for the different purposes. And you can set the limitation and access restrictions at the namespace level. So this is the one namespace, this is the two namespace. Did you understand that, guys? All of you?
Yeah.
So now guys, what has happened? This concept was okay. Then suddenly Kubernetes said, okay, I am allowing you to create a namespace, but you know what? Remember, it's not project B and it's not project A, but I also want to run some pod. So let me do one thing. Let me create one namespace more for system pod, like API server, etcd, cluster store, and all stuff like that. Then people said, okay, you created system. What about those pod which is having not a location of the namespace? Then Kubernetes said, no problem, we will create one namespace which is a default one. So they created one namespace system for the system pod. Then they created one namespace for the default for the those pods who's having no dedicated namespace, they can go to the default one. Then what happened? There are some service between for A and B. Now common service we call it. So now A don't want to host within his namespace, and B also do not want to host in his own namespace. So what do we do in this case? So then Kubernetes said, no problem. Let's create one public namespace. Public namespace will be used for the any common pod which you want to run and you want to use across the different namespaces. Then operations guys, it came and said, boss, you created for namespace for everyone, but we do the maintenance work like log scrapping, monitoring of the infrastructure, cleanup, this, that, and all. So for us, where we'll go? Then Kubernetes says, no problem, I'll create one more namespace, and this is called a node specific namespace for the maintenance purpose. So guys, ultimately, how many namespace Kubernetes created? System, default, public, node. And how many people can create a namespace? As many, depends on your requirement. And each namespace, what you can do, you can set the limitation, how much CPU, how much RAM and all, you can use it, and you can assign the dedicated access for that particular namespace. So that way, everyone can work together happily without disturbing each other within a one cluster. Did you understand this concept? all of you?
So the whole objective is that not everybody can use every resource, even though Kubernetes provides that. So through the maybe RBAC or proper access, everybody will have certain level of usage, right? Resources wise. That's why the
Yeah,
namespace
resource limit
concept.
and access limit you can set at the namespace level. So that way team is aligned to work with only allocation, use maximum only to allocable resources, not more than that.
Okay.
I have one
So guys,
question, Rajesh. So when we are requesting for namespace with the memory, right? So what is it? What is the way it is used at a design? Like, for example, if two namespaces I've created and it uses 100% requesting for 100% of memory or something, so then will there be any way of creating a third name? Will it be allowed or not? Is there any intelligence? Is there later stage?
no, you have to think in this way. Total capacity is, let's say, 100 GB RAM. Okay, now for this namespace you set maximum you can use 30 GB. So now what will happen, there is one check will be happening. All what is the consumption of your overall pods RAM capacity overall. If it is moving more than to 30 GB, then allocation will not happen. That means you cannot use. So even your system will, your application will get hang, will not running, I don't care, but you'll not be able to use more than 30 GB. The still 70 GB will be available for the remaining resources, remaining namespace and external pod. So you are setting the limit here. You cannot use more than this. How can you set the limit? All this thing, when you set the limit, this consolidations and all, remember, whenever the CPU memory and all is being used, is basically process. So they and Kubernetes control everything. So they ask nodes not to allocate more CPU, more RAM, because you have reached to the threshold, and whenever you demand more CPU, more RAM, you will not get it. Simple.
No, my question was like, I know that there is a limit for the namespaces, but if I create a multiple different namespaces, for example, 30, 30, 10, if it is 100 GB, right? So I have created four namespaces, right? So now I
Hmm.
consume 100% of that, right? So now,
Hmm.
will there be now there won't be no more namespaces allowed, right? Or is there any intelligence, like depending upon the resources, it will going to scale up or scale down? How is that?
Okay. I think you're mixing two, three things together. So first thing, let's look at these questions one at a time. First, you said there's 100 GB. So let's create a four namespace, 30, 30, 30, and 10. Now each one of the namespace have used their limitation, reached to the limitation. So this is what I understood. After this, what is your question?
So since it is 100% kind of resources utilized, so the new space, if it requests for 30 GB, right, the new one. So what will be the next
No,
scenario?
not new one 30 GB required.
A new namespace.
New namespace required nothing. Remember, you set the limit. If you don't set the limit, it's everything. You can use as long as it is available.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, you can create as many namespace. It will not consume any. It will not consume any. What do you say? Resources. Only when you run the
For
pod
just setting the
inside.
resource limit, right? That's it.
It's just for the setting. It's a specification. It's not some service or software running. This is the way to classify. So now
Got it.
let's get into this slides one more time here. So now you see here, there's so many resources. This pods resources which you see, this is called namespace true. Why namespace true? Because pod you can create in the Kubernetes only within the namespace. That's the reason it's true. You cannot create outside of the namespace. It has to be either default or system or public or node or some custom namespace. Okay, so now let me show you the namespace first. Qctl get ns. See here, default, this is for the node, this is for the public, and this is for the system. There is no limit set by.
To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.
Default, you can set the limit later point of the time. Access also is not been applied, but typically we use for this purpose only. Okay, so now here, now look at this here. If I see the node, which is a one more resources, node is a false. Why? Because look at this node. Where is the node is lying? Node is lying here. It's not inside a namespace. So node is at the cluster level, not at the namespace level. So that is the reason it is a false. It is a false. Now if you see the namespace itself is not a, also is a false. You see here. Why? Because namespace itself is not inside a namespace. Namespace is created at the cluster level. This is the cluster level. So yes, namespace is false. So like that, if you want to know, in a short way I'll tell you, in a simple way I'll tell you, if you want to know which resources you can create at namespace level, here you can see that, and which resources which you can create at a cluster level, here you can see that. Okay, so namespace level, cluster level, everyone can access. Namespace level, only that namespace inside that can be using it. So this is the namespace. All of you have understood this concept of namespace now?
Yes.
So guys, simple way I'll tell you, don't complicate your understanding. This is a way to manage the and control the pods, storage, and many other resources allocation. That's all. Divide, distribute, management, categorizations, and all stuff. You can, these are the ways actually. That's all. So one cluster can be used by multiple people. Okay, great. So guys, I got to name no namespace also. So here I had asked questions to myself. What is your desire? I have so many desire to be done. So many with their versions, and one of this namespace. So what is your desire, guys? Again, I will ask a question. What is your desire? So we'll have to start with something, right? So first thing what I want is namespace. What is a namespace? I have taught you. Second thing I want inside a namespace pod, I will teach you. Okay. What is a pod? You know that, but how to create a pod, I'll teach you. Next thing which you want is replication controller. So what is a replication controller? I'll teach you. Next thing which you want is deployment. What is a deployment? I'll teach you. Next thing what you want is services. What is services? I'll teach you. Next thing which you want RBAC. What is RBAC? I'll teach you. Next thing which you want is storage. What is storage? I'll teach you. Basically guys, here in storage there are 5 resources, 6 I guess. Okay, 5 or 6 or something. RBAC also there's a 5 resources. Here 1 1 1 1. So all together end of this session, that means end of tomorrow, we will, by tomorrow we will talk 1 resources, 2 3 4 5 5 6. So altogether 10 15 16 resources out of 57 resources. Okay, did you understand that? So this is our next 1.5 days of plan. All of you, any questions, any doubts? Any questions? All of you?
No, thanks.
Okay, so here guys, first thing I will ask you one question, please answer me. If you are a developer, you know this question. Most of you must be knowing actually, I guess. Let's say someone exposes some API to you. You know, now the whole world is filled up with API. You know that Facebook API, WhatsApp API, Twitter API, LinkedIn API, Flipkart API, Amazon API, Google API, this API, that API. Everyone is exposing so much of API. So I want to know, let's say you have one API. So typically what you do with that API? Tell me. What do we do with the API? Quickly, guys.
Publishes so that others can use it.
We call the API to access the service.
Yeah, but what you do with that? I don't know whether you're getting my questions or not, but I'm not able to get some more meaningful keyword in my mind.
Data operations.
Huh? How to use API? Yeah. How to
Data
use
operation.
API? CRUD operations. CRUD operation. Guys, you want to see that? Let's go here. Let's say Flipkart API. Okay, any API, everything is same actually. Flipkart API. Okay, I'm just guessing it. I have not used Flipkart API. I have used the Facebook API though. Okay, I just search. Guys, are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yes, Rajesh.
I don't know how come my browsing is very slow. See here. So should be having, see here. This is the CRUD. Post, get, delete. Oh, delete they have not. See, get here. Post they have it, and post, get. Only two they are supporting. Either you can post or either you can get. Nothing else you can do that. So they are supporting only two. Okay, but typically we'll have a fourth thing. What is the CRUD? So CRUD means create, read, update, delete. Okay, now if you want to simplify, create means post, read means get, update means put, I think put, yeah, put, and delete means delete. These are, we call it a verb. Okay, every API you do this one only. Okay, every API you do this one only. So now the question is, I want to create namespace, working with the namespace. So what do you want to do? Working with the namespace. So what do you want to do? You want to CRUD, that's all, nothing else. You want to CRUD. So I want to create namespace. I want to read namespace. I want to update namespace. I want to delete namespace. Okay, simple. Now the question is how to create, how to read, how to delete. So guys, there are two methods which is supported by kubectl, Kubernetes. One is command line, one is YAML file. Okay, simple. You can do through command line also. You can do YAML file also, the YAML file which I was talking about since morning. So command line is you can do for one resources, one at a time. But in YAML you can do at the multiple resources. Simple. So now the question is, how can we do create? So can we go and find out myself? I am not having idea. So let me try to find it out myself. How to create any resources? See here. Create command will help you to create a resources like a namespace, pod, this, that, whatever it is, from a file like a YAML file or JSON file or from std and command line. So I can create command. And then here, if you are using YAML, create -f and YAML file. How can I read this? Read through command line. So do you have any commands? Can you guys, can you help me to find out from here? Which command will help me to read this?
Get.
Get. Get. There's a commands for get. YAML we don't need right now. Okay, update. Any command you see that, guys?
Edit.
Yeah, edit command line. And but YAML you will not be able to edit like this. You have to use apply. Okay. Now delete, guys.
Delete.
Yeah. So you only found out. I am not teaching you. You only found out what to do. So delete -f YAML. See. So now what do you want, sir? You want to create a pod? Sorry, you want to create a namespace. You want to read namespace. You want to update namespace. You want to delete namespace. Simple. This is a magical formula. Now, do you think only it will work with only namespace? No, no, no. It will work with all the resources which you have listed. I have listed out here, all the resources. So that's all. That's all. Just CRUD. So what is your job ultimately? You just need to know what is this. That's all. So now I know what is a namespace, so I can go and create it. So let's not talk more. Let's create it. So guys, remember this rule will be applicable for every resources. So right now I'm working with the namespace. So how many namespace we have it? Get ns short I'm using. Okay, here. How many namespace you have? Default, node, public, and system. Can we do one thing? Can we create this? Guys, I don't know the command. So if you don't know the command, let me tell you, I'm teaching you trend pattern. It's not like I'm teaching you 15 resources and then remaining you should get stuck. No matter what happens, this is the pattern which you can use. If you don't know, -h remember all the time. And you see, the moment you do create, guys, what you can create, can see available command. There's some examples are also there. What you can create, I want to create, by the way, there's so many resources, it's available for the creation, but I want to create namespace. So here I got to know few things. I'm learning myself. Namespace, you can write in short name also, but I don't know what to write after that. -h, please remember all the time. So here I want to create namespace. This is the example. So this is the way you will learn and then you become a pro. So guys, I want to create dev, I want to create a QA, I want to get ns, and here you see dev namespace, QA namespace, very simple. So you got the namespace created and done. Wonderful. So now you got the namespace. Now what you have to edit. So for edit, what you have to do, command line YAML file. So as of now, I'm working with the command line. So see, edit. So what to do? Edit. What you want to edit? NS short name. Which one? Dev. There's nothing much to edit right now because no limit has been applied. No access has been allocation. It's a basic format. I'll complicate slowly, but right now, not editing anything. Done. Editing cancelled. No changes made. Done. Now guys, I want to delete this. Delete ns QA. I want to delete. I deleted. That's all. So now whatever you did with the namespace, you have to do with all the resources, provided you know what you want. Gone. It's so simple. So these are the commands I run in order to show you all this stuff. So guys, now I hope you know what are the resources which is available, what is the name of the resources, what is a short name, what is the API version, what is the namespace true and false, and this binding kind is equal for the YAML actually. And then their versions also, you have it supported version. And these are the things which we are going to do in the next 5 days. Sorry. It's the next 1.5 days. And then this is the rule which you have to apply with each API resources. you can do through two ways, command line and YAML, CRUD. I just showed you command line, all these commands you have it here. Any questions guys? All of you have it? Any questions?
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 3D99 plan and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.